I've got this kind of sliding scale based on what I can see so far. I think the Inspirian guys are at the top end of the energy levels here, asking questions, doing well, fellas. Either you didn't go out last night or you're still drunk, we're not sure. And then there's the Lumi guys. I don't think they turned up. Is anyone here from Lumi? Yeah. Can you all do me a favor? If they come in halfway through the presentation, let's all give them a round of applause for crawling in, but we'll see. As Guy was saying, the detail of my presentation is all about, the issues that we face in research that we think mobile can help with. I wouldn't go so far as to say that I'm frustrated with traditional methods in research. I think we have many excellent methods that we're using, but we're probably relying on them a little bit too much, and mobile can help us solve some key challenges. So half this presentation will be around the theory and where we think mobile can help, and the second half will be around some practice and how far we've got in that learning curve. If you want to get in touch, obviously there's questions at the end, but if you aren't feeling energetic enough to ask questions, you can just drop me a line on Twitter if you want. And to introduce myself a little bit more, I'm actually looking after digital for TNS in the Asia-Pacific region. And as part of that role, one of the things I'm tasked with is running basically an innovation pipeline that makes sure we don't take solutions or products or research projects to market unless they've been properly road tested. So experimentation is a big part of my role. So first of all, why do we need mobile? How do we kind of picture it helping us out? And at TNS, we've got this kind of very loose framework based on the 3 Rs. And we probably sacrificed some accuracy on our framework by focusing so much on alliteration. But it's working quite well so far. And we call those reach, relevance, and reality. So the point around reach is that mobile can help us answer new questions, get us into new areas that we couldn't get into previously. The point around relevance is that we can use this solution, this technique, which is far easier for respondents to tell us or to take part in research. There's a lot of discussion yesterday around the kind of the pain of the hour-long questionnaire or the pain of the 40-minute questionnaire. We think mobile can be a much easier way for respondents to take part in research, which is all the more important when we consider kind of increasing panel overage or decreasing response rates. And finally, partly because of this notion of reaching into new areas and being a more relevant and therefore more accurate way the panelists can respond, it should give us a better steer of reality. Ultimately, we have to judge mobile on whether or not it gives us better insights. So in a bit more detail then, I was practicing this presentation last night in my hotel room rather than boozing. And I got to this slide and thought, that's an awful lot of data for slide 3, especially at 9:45 in the morning. But please allow me to talk through it. What we've got here is an indexed equity score from our conversion model study, looking at brand equity. And we've been using this technique to track brands for years and years. And generally speaking, we'll come in and we'll say, hello, client, your brand equity score this month is here. Last month it was here or here, so it's gone up or down, and that's good or bad. But what we know is that brand equity doesn't just change on a monthly or weekly or even a daily basis. How you feel about a brand will change throughout the day based on context, based on need, based on mood. And with mobile, we can track it. So this is a situational equity score, looking at the equity level for a particular brand throughout the entire day and how it's going up and down throughout the day. It's actually for a fast food brand. And we're comparing their equity score, so their share, how people feel about them in their minds, to their market share, whether they're buying or not. And the comparison is very, very interesting. You can first of all see that in the middle of the day, around about lunchtime, this fast food brand's doing pretty well. Their mind share and their market share are quite closely correlated because their proposition works at lunchtime. They're fast, they're convenient, they're cheap, they're tasty, delicious calories. That's all working quite well for this fast food brand, but they've got some real issues later in the day and also in the morning. So you can see, in actual fact, they've got a lot of kind of hostage customers in the morning, people going there who don't actually want to be there. Maybe guys disagreeing with me, I don't know. I don't have pancakes for breakfast. And the point is, we can actually dig deeper as well, so we can also put in some diagnostics, again, time-stamped. We ask people why they were shopping or why they were buying this fast food at different times of the day. At lunchtime, they came up with, fast, convenient, cheap, tastes good. In the morning, they were saying it was all about the footprint of the outlets, the fact they were going there because it was easier to go there rather than go somewhere else, but they preferred to have something a little bit more healthier at that time of day. So for us, this is mobile proving that gives us new reach. It's answering questions we couldn't answer before, and it's creating a new revenue stream for our business. It should also be far, far more relevant for our panelists. We've got these two people here who are a little bit confused, and a very confused conversation. I think they're also a bit confused about what gender they are as well, looking a little bit homogenous there, guys. But the point is that mobile should be a much easier way for panelists to take part. You know, you're not asking them to fill in a 40-minute survey, asking them to remember what soap powder they bought last month or what the last ad they saw was. They're actually having a conversation here, and they don't know what's going on. And the key point here is with mobile, we can ask them during the exact moment. You know, what ad did you just see rather than what ad did you see months ago? What ad are you watching right now rather than showing them something and say, do you recognize this advert? Or do you recognize this brand? We've done a huge amount of research on research internally, and we found that prompted awareness is one of the worst metrics we've been using it for years. It actually correlates with almost nothing. It doesn't correlate with kind of brand metrics. It doesn't correlate with sales. Barely even correlates with unprompted awareness, for example. So we think mobile can improve this and be a more relevant way for our respondents. And then finally, we talked about reality as our last big box to tick off, if you like, the third advantage of mobile over others. And yes, to some extent, that's because we can reach into new areas and we can make it easier for our panelists to tell us the truth or what they're actually thinking and feeling in real time. But one of the reasons that I really like mobile is because it works so well in conjunction with other sources of information. You know, going back to this point around brand tracking and some of the issues we face with it, you know, we define our brand tracking questionnaire at one point in time. We come up with a kind of report template which matches that questionnaire, and then we automate the hell out of the process. So if you're in 50 markets, you get 50 reports. If it's monthly, you get them every single month. If it's quarterly, you get them every single quarter. And they do not change. So changing them is expensive. It's a huge amount of money we spend on these programs. And the big promise of mobile for me is not just that we can move to a kind of a more nimble system, it's that we can use the budget, therefore, that we would spend on these hour-long tracking programs and split it across different sources of information and use different things to meet different needs. And we've talked for years and years about the fragmentation of media. It's been a big buzzword for a while. I think what we'll be facing over the next few years is the fragmentation of insight. If you're on Twitter, you can tweet that quote, it's fine. And we'll see things split out across different platforms. So maybe, for example, we'll just have a continuous tracking vehicle through mobile, which just gives us that KPI. How is your brand performing? We could combine that with some social data. Yes, it's always filthy, it needs cleaning. But when you get through it, you can actually find some very interesting stuff in there as well. It can give us a new KPI, a new source of information. With the budget we've saved, we might want to put in some strategic tips, for example. You know, maybe there's some big issues you want to understand in more detail. Well, fine, we'll go back to the market, we'll find those out. If there's comms evaluation, we can fit those in around that as well. And mobile can play a strong role giving us point-in-time information at key moments in the consumer-brand relationship. I think I've got one more build here. Yeah, there we go. That's an early warning system. So we think that mobile won't just help us meet some tactical challenges. We think strategically it will help us create a much more valuable program as one part of a whole. And what we really like about this is not just another source of insight, another source of answers, if you like. It's also a new source of questions for us. You know? Where there's this issue that brands might have new questions halfway through a tracking cycle, we can't change our questionnaire because it's too expensive. So mobile can help us answer those questions on the run, on the fly. But things like social and mobile can also give us a new sense of what the actual questions are themselves. So rather than questions just coming from the brand or just coming from the researcher, we can take those questions directly from social data and say, actually, we think this is important because humans are telling us these factors are important, and then we can research them some more. So the entire process becomes far more iterative. And in doing so, you get a far better sense of the actual consumer reality. At TNS, we also want to go further. I mean, this is the kind of thing we're pitching now as part of our brand tracking proposals in all markets where we can make all these pieces work, which isn't all of them, but it's quite a few. And we want to go further. Because I'm already talking too much, I've got a quick video on where we see the future going for brand tracking. But the point here is that when you have these new sources, we can still apply some of our existing techniques or existing strengths. We know how to automate. We do it quite a lot. And in doing so, we can spit out some outputs which our clients can use to far greater extent. So that's where we want to go. That's where we're heading, if you like, as a business. And that's also the easy part of the presentation. It's always very easy to stand and say, here's the big promise. Here's where we want to get to. The reality of getting there is always much trickier. It's easier to say rather than do, if you like. So how far have we got with real-time tracking? This is a pilot we ran in TNS. We use mobile to some extent as well. And we basically wanted to try and get a live read on how two brands were performing when they launched a product 1 week apart. So the two brands we had, one was Samsung. And the reason we like Samsung so much is because their market share is so strong. And we wanted to compare that to Apple, few too many builds here, because their mind share is so strong. For years and years and years, we've had Apple is kind of at the peak of the market. They're the premium handset brand. And Samsung's been chasing them and delivering quite a good proposition, which is almost as good a handset at a cheaper price. We've got mind share versus market share. It's actually fascinating for me as well that Samsung and Asia are actually going beyond that now. Things like the Note and the Galaxy S4, they're actually winning with the premium consumers for the first time. But in this case, we wanted to compare the market share versus the mind share to see how that would impact results in market. And the two products, one was the Note 2, launched on the 4th of September last year, and the other one was the 5S, launched on the 10th of September. So very close together. We wanted to see how much noise each one would create. So our method here, I'm just going to skip through this. There were a couple of different methods that we deployed here. First of all, we recruited people. We gave them a mobile diary to complete for 2 weeks during that launch period. We also had 2 follow-up surveys, well, milestone 1, milestone 2 here. And the key point was that the diary would give us a kind of a live read, a live measure of exposure. We wouldn't say to people, can you remember seeing any of these adverts? We'd just say, every time you see a brand, or one of these kind of 4 or 5 mobile handset brands, tell us about it, tell us where you saw them, and tell us which brand it was for. And that was pretty much it. A few more diagnostic questions in there. That's all we really asked people during that diary. And then in our milestones, we had some deeper questions around brand imagery, brand commitment, those sorts of things. So we combined the 2 methods. We had about 500 people in the survey. So the point about this Diametric was that it wouldn't just tell us what people think they saw, it would tell them as they saw it, as it came up. So it's kind of like our measure of exposure, a measure of proxy measure for reach, if you like. And one of the great points about this method was it gave us a blow-by-blow account of what was happening. You know, not just are you winning overall, but are you winning today, yesterday, tomorrow, that sort of thing. So what we had is we've got these share of mentions for Samsung and for Apple in online news, basically. So what's being talked about on the internet on a daily basis. And Samsung launched their handset first. They kind of quickly took off. They're doing quite well. Their share of mentions increased from what our respondents were reporting, but only until Apple showed up. And Apple's PR machine just blew them away. And this blow-by-blow account was basically all the blows were being landed by Apple, really, as their share mentions just went through the roof because people were so excited about the brand. These are our day-by-day dots, in case you're wondering. The lines are 5-day rolling averages. So the same thing offline as well. So in actual fact, Samsung doing even worse here. That line kind of drops off fairly early. People are talking about or hearing about these brands from other people. And when they talk about them, it's always Apple that get talked about rather than Samsung. So again, different platform, but very similar result. Where Samsung were actually competing was when it came to paid media. So never afraid to spend money. Helps you to win, certainly in terms of kind of a proxy reach metric like this. And finally, in terms of our day-by-day analysis, we also saw that when it came to social networks, so Facebook pretty much, they were performing very strongly. So this is interesting for me because obviously social is, they're competing on paid and losing on earned elsewhere. This is one area of earned where they're still competing. So this is kind of a pat on the back for Samsung's Facebook team. And obviously, because we're measuring things at a channel level to begin with, we don't necessarily have to go straight in with all the really complex modeling that cross-media normally means. We have our separated channels out already, and we can tell them not just how they're doing overall, but also how they're performing across different channels, different metrics, whether it's press, TV, video, and everything else. You can see those gaps there as well. So that was what our diary was for, measuring exposure throughout the day, comparing gaps between those brands and the share of mentions. We also had our dips, which were uncovering any changes in brand image. And it was here that the story was quite dramatically reversed. So Apple, they were winning on most metrics in terms of share of mentions, and they're also seen as a kind of a more innovative, high quality, and a brand, and a kind of a premium brand to begin with. But their campaign, their product, and also their marcoms didn't increase those scores over that period as part of this longitudinal study. And I think this story, for me, it probably echoes the market quite well. You know, for years and years, Apple have been the number one, but Samsung are catching up very, very quickly. And Apple's innovations are not seen as differentiating as they used to be. Apple used to define the market, and now the eyes of consumers, they're bringing out phones which are very similar to their previous ones. Whereas Samsung, with things like the Note, the larger screens, which are very popular here in Asia, they're redefining the market, and they're at the forefront now. You can see it catching up in these scores here. So this is a client presentation. Our overall, probably our number one insight would be something on the lines of that, yes, Apple's launch plans are driving greater impact in the market, but Samsung's marcoms and Samsung's products are actually improving their inventory scores better. They're resonating more amongst their own customers. That was kind of our brief case study. We want to check back here against our 3 criteria and ask ourselves, is mobile doing what we think it should? Have we succeeded in doing the things we need to do in terms of reach, relevance, and reality? So first of all, did mobile give us a steer through that presentation, through that case study? Did it reach us into new areas and give us a new perspective, if you like? I think the answer is certainly yes, from my point of view, especially when you bear in mind that study was far cheaper than anything kind of cross-media orientated we would have to apply. So we tick one box. Was it easier for the respondent? Was it a more relevant way for them to input data? In some sense, yes, it was easier for them to remember, but we researched the hell out of these people. You know, we gave them 3 weeks, 3 surveys, and a 2-week diary. It's an awful lot of research for one poor guy to have to go through. So I don't really think we can say we've kind of nailed that relevance objective just yet. And in terms of reality, did it give us a new steer, new perspective? Was it more accurate? In some sense, yes. You know, we had the sense that by just reporting on things in the moment, we're getting a better steer. At the same time, while cross-media solution is pretty effective as well. So I'd probably give ourselves 1.5 out of 3 for that case in terms of how we're performing. So next steps. What do we think the gap is between that vision we presented earlier and how far we've got with these sorts of case studies? There's basically 2 things that we have within the business or have access to. One is the technology. We're now very, very comfortable with running mobile diaries and mobile surveys, working with our technology partners and our panel partners. We know that these things work. And we have the techniques as well. You know, we have kind of a modeling process that works at the individual level to pull out the drivers of any given KPI. So with bigger base sizes, we could take this approach, give live updates, and also at the end of the process, give our clients a direct read on which channels we're lifting which KPIs. So the techniques, we have them there, they're ready to use. What we don't have here is a fully mobile panel. Some of you, you're welcome to disagree with me. I'd love to hear that we actually do have these things. But at the moment, whenever we do a mobile diary, we have to recruit them first. And it's laborious, and it's an extra step in the process. Pushes down response rates, increases costs. So we're really keen to get a fully mobile panel so that A, we can just access those people really easily, and B, we don't have to recruit them fresh each time. In fact, C as well, we'd rather have a dip each day which was from different people rather than longitudinal. So we're researching people a bit less. And we also need partners here as well. I mentioned at the start of this presentation that as part of my role, innovation and experimentation is a big part of what I do. So I've come here to Singapore from Hong Kong, specifically seeking out pilot partners. So this is both from the panel and the technology side, but also from the brand side as well. So if you've got any experiments you want to run, let me know, and we could be quite a willing partner. Okay. So that's it from me. Thank you very much.
A quick question on, do you have a point of view about if we're using longitudinal studies using mobile, are we better able to be able to split out the impact of the different elements of the marketing mix on a KPI? If you have more data points. You mentioned a bit about modeling and in your presentation. Is that something that we can do more effectively with mobile, or does it make any difference?
What we do at the moment, anyways, when we do a cross-media study, we will survey very close to the point in time. We'll use opportunities to see to work out what they might have been exposed to, and then we will use some advanced modeling to work out, person A was exposed to these 2 touch points, but not the third one. Person B was exposed to all 3, and his brand image scores went up by this much. It might be the 3rd touch point. We did that sort of modeling to get to that solution. I think it's fairly complex. We need quite big samples to do that. I like the idea of mobile simply because we can reduce those samples, track them over time, and then model in the same way. So from my perspective, if we can get a proper mobile panel, we can do the same studies far more cheaply with smaller sample sizes. So I think that's the main benefit, to my eyes, of doing a longitudinal mobile approach, as well as the blow-by-blow as well. You can't get that any other way, doing the daily updates.
It was nice to see somebody other than Yanni Hofmeier do the presentation, and certainly a different spin on it this time. That was great. And an Asia spin, which is also great. A couple of concerns. Yesterday we had a Coca-Cola presentation that talked about using some light research, like this, but also still using the 4-hour tracker questionnaire, because otherwise large parts of the business won't get any data. And how do we reconcile that problem, that if you're the Coke Zero manager who needs to know how the 600 milliliter bottle is working, if we only ask people to tell us about what's top of mind, we're probably not going to be answering that manager's questions.
At an overall level, I certainly think the long survey programs you run are inefficient and in that sense a waste of resources. So my key point here was that we can divert some of those resources to more nimble solutions and end up with a kind of a better overall picture at the same time. I certainly wouldn't say that it's the right answer in every single scenario.
From this work that you have done, what's been your initial client reactions? Have they been surprised or shocked by maybe some of the changes you've made, or how's it gone down?
I don't think we've ever had a bad reaction. The scales probably range from, oh, that's interesting, to, oh my God, that's groundbreakingly new. And we're probably somewhere in the middle most of the time. Yeah. But it's never been negative.